I'm Rachel, trapped in a life that's been draining the color from my soul, day by suffocating day. My marriage to Ethan feels like a quiet storm, brewing beneath a surface of routine and unspoken words, while I'm drowning in a sea of numbness, barely able to drag myself out of bed. But last night, in the flickering shadows of a remote cabin, something shattered. Boundaries I didn't even know I'd built. Strangers walked into our world, orchestrated by the one person I thought I knew completely, and their presence ignited a fire I thought had long burned out. What did Ethan unleash? And why can't I shake the feeling that everything I thought I understood about us is about to unravel? There's a certain weight to silence, isn't there? Not the kind you notice at first, but the kind that creeps into your bones over time, heavy as wet sand. I'm Rachel, 31 years old, and I've been carrying that weight for longer than I can pinpoint. I'm married to Ethan, 34, a man whose quiet presence is like a shadow that never quite leaves the room. He's steady, unshakable, the kind of person who can sit through a storm without flinching. And me? I'm the opposite right now. Unraveled, like a wilted flower left too long without water, my petals curling inward, drained of any color or life I once had. This morning, I woke up. Or rather, I opened my eyes, because waking up implies some kind of energy, some readiness to face the day. I had none of that. I just lay there in our suburban bedroom, the sheets tangled around my legs, staring at the ceiling as slivers of sunlight slipped through the blinds. The room was too still, too familiar, the kind of stillness that suffocates. I could hear the faint hum of the world outside, cars rolling by, a neighbor's dog barking. But it all felt so far away, like I was underwater, watching life happen above the surface. I didn't want to move. I couldn't. My body felt like it was made of lead, pinned to the mattress by an invisible force I couldn't name. My life, if you can call it that, is a series of mundane irritations grinding me down to dust. My job as a marketing coordinator is a soul-sucking void. I spend hours drowning in emails, each one more pointless than the last, crafting responses with a fake cheer I don't feel. Zoom calls are the worst, plastering on a smile while I nod along to buzzwords and corporate jargon, pretending I care. And don't get me started on the neighbors. Every forced conversation at the mailbox or over the fence about the weather or their kids' soccer games feels like nails on a chalkboard. I'm screaming inside, but all I do is nod and laugh politely, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Keep up appearances even when you're crumbling. Ethan, though, he doesn't push. He doesn't ask why I've been like this for weeks, maybe months. He doesn't demand explanations for why I can barely get out of bed, or why I flinch at the thought of small talk. Instead, every morning he leaves a mug of chamomile tea on the bedside table before he heads out to his job as a software engineer. It's always there, steaming gently, a silent gesture that says he's still here, still waiting. His silence is a double-edged sword, comforting in its lack of judgment, but unsettling too, like he's holding back something I can't quite grasp. It's as if he's watching for a sign, waiting for a moment I don't even know is coming. I can still feel the weight of that morning, the way it pressed down on me like a physical thing, heavier than the tangled sheets around my legs. Lying there in our suburban bedroom, I was a prisoner to my own exhaustion, my limbs refusing to budge, my mind a sluggish fog. The rain tapped against the window, a relentless rhythm that mirrored the dull ache in my chest. Each drop seemed to whisper that nothing would change, that I'd be stuck in this gray haze forever. I didn't even have the energy to turn my head, just stared at the ceiling, tracing the same old cracks I'd memorized over countless sleepless nights. Then the door creaked open, and Ethan stepped in. I caught the faint scent of his cologne, something woodsy and familiar, before I even saw him. He was dressed in a navy sweater and jeans, the kind of casual outfit that somehow looked purposeful on him. In his hand was a small duffel bag, zipped tight, and his expression, calm but unyielding, sent a ripple through the stillness. He stood at the foot of the bed, looking down at me, and his voice cut through the quiet like a lifeline I wasn't sure I wanted to grab. "We're going. I've arranged everything. You just need to be." His words hung there, heavy with intent, but my brain couldn't catch up. Going? Where? Why? My thoughts stumbled over each other, clumsy and slow, like I was wading through mud. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. There was a flicker of something beneath the numbness, though, a tiny spark of curiosity, faint as a dying ember, but there all the same. I didn't ask, I didn't argue, I just nodded, too drained to resist, too hollow to fight whatever this was. Ethan's eyes softened for a moment, a silent acknowledgement, before he turned and waited by the door. Getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. Every movement was deliberate, heavy, as I dragged myself upright and fumbled for clothes. I pulled on a worn hoodie, the fabric soft and frayed at the cuffs, and slipped into a pair of old sneakers that had seen better days. Ethan was patient, standing there with that quiet strength of his, and when I was ready, he gently guided me out of the room, his hand a steady warmth at the small of my back. We moved through the house in silence, past the kitchen, where dishes sat unwashed, past the living room where the TV screen stared blankly at nothing. Outside, our old silver SUV waited in the driveway, its paint dulled by years of use, and I slid into the passenger seat, the cold leather biting through my thin hoodie. Ethan started the engine, the low hum vibrating through the car, and we pulled away from our cookie-cutter neighborhood. I watched the identical houses blur past, their manicured lawns and pastel shutters fading into the rearview mirror. The sky was a heavy gray, swollen with clouds, and the rain had eased into a gentle drizzle. I'm sitting by the fire now, the crackling of the logs a soothing rhythm against the quiet of this remote cabin Ethan brought us to. The blanket draped over my shoulders feels like a cocoon, soft and heavy, trapping the warmth against my skin. In my hands, a mug of hot cocoa, the kind Ethan made with care, steam curling up in lazy wisps. I take a sip, letting the sweet, rich heat seep into my bones, chasing away the lingering chill from the long drive. For the first time in what feels like forever, I'm starting to feel something akin to peace, even if it's fragile, like it could shatter with the slightest touch. Then, I hear it. The slow, deliberate creak of the front door. My head snaps up, the mug nearly slipping from my fingers. The firelight casts long shadows across the room as three men step inside, their presence filling the space with an unfamiliar weight. Strangers to me, every one of them, but Ethan, standing near the doorway, greets them with a subtle nod, as if he's been expecting them all along. My breath catches, a mix of confusion and unease tightening my chest. Who are these people? Why are they here, in this isolated place with us? I study them, my eyes darting from one to the next, trying to make sense of this intrusion. The first, Caleb, looks to be in his mid-30s, with a rugged beard framing a strong jaw, his piercing blue eyes catching the firelight like shards of ice. He's wearing a flannel shirt, the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms dusted with dark hair, and there's a raw, earthy energy about him. Then there's Marcus, early 40s, tall and lean, carrying a quiet intensity that seems to hum beneath his stillness. His dark skin contrasts with the gray scarf wrapped loosely around his neck, and his gaze is steady, almost piercing, as if he can see right through me. Lastly, Liam, late 20s, with tousled blonde hair and a disarming smile that feels both warm and dangerous. His hands are tucked into the pockets of a worn leather jacket, and there's a casual ease to him that somehow makes me more nervous. I'm frozen, my heart pounding so hard I'm sure they can hear it. I glance at Ethan, searching for some kind of explanation, some reassurance, but he's already settled into an armchair across from me, his expression unreadable. He just nods, a small, almost imperceptible gesture, as if giving permission for whatever is about to happen. My mind races, questions piling up, but before I can voice any of them, Caleb steps forward. His boots scuff against the wooden floor, the sound rough and deliberate, and he closes the distance between us. My breath hitches as he reaches out, his fingers brushing a strand of my hair, tucking it behind my ear with a gentleness that feels too intimate for a stranger. Then, his hand lingers, brushing an imaginary speck of dust from my shoulder, and I feel a jolt, like electricity sparking through me, sharp and unexpected. I don't pull away. I can't. My breath catches in my throat, my body betraying me by leaning into the sensation, even as my mind screams for answers. Marcus and Liam stand back, watching with a silence that feels heavy, loaded with something I can't name. It's not judgment in their eyes, but something else. Curiosity, maybe, or understanding. I feel Ethan's gaze on me too, steady and unflinching, like he's studying every reaction, every tremble. Something inside me stirs, a buried part of myself I've kept locked away for years, waking up with a hunger I didn't know I still had. And then it hits me, with a mix of shock and clarity that makes my stomach twist. Ethan arranged this. He brought them here, for me. He's giving me permission to explore something I've suppressed, something I thought was dead and gone, buried under the weight of routine and numbness. My thoughts spiral as Caleb's touch lingers, his fingers tracing a slow, deliberate path along my collarbone, sending warmth blooming across my skin. Marcus steps closer now, his touch lingering in my mind. I'm still trembling as the echoes of what just happened ripple through me, my skin prickling with the memory of unfamiliar hands and unspoken boundaries crossed. Caleb, Marcus, and Liam have stepped back now, their presence still a heavy undercurrent in the room, though they've moved quietly to the kitchen area, giving me a moment to breathe. I can hear the faint clink of glasses or bottles, a murmur of low voices, but it's distant, like a hum I can't quite tune into. My hands clutch the edges of the blanket draped over me, pulling it tighter, as if it could shield me from the storm of emotions crashing inside. I'm on the couch, curled into myself, my knees drawn up, trying to make sense of the whirlwind, exhilaration buzzing like a live wire in my veins, confusion tangling my thoughts, and a creeping guilt that gnaws at the edges of my mind, whispering questions I'm not ready to face. The fire crackles in the hearth, the only sound breaking the thick silence in this part of the cabin. Each pop and hiss feels amplified, mirroring the chaos in my head as I replay every moment, every touch, every glance. The way Caleb's fingers lingered with a warmth that felt too personal, the quiet intensity in Marcus's eyes as he watched, the subtle, knowing curve of Liam's smile that sent my pulse racing. And Ethan? Ethan, sitting there through it all, his presence a steady anchor even as he let the tide pull me under. I can't look at him yet. My gaze stays fixed on the flickering flames, their dance hypnotic, as if they might burn away the uncertainty clawing at me. What have I done? What does this mean? My heart thuds unevenly, each beat a reminder of how alive I felt in those moments, and how wrong that aliveness feels now. Finally, I force myself to glance at him. He's still in the armchair across from me, his wine glass now empty, resting on the small table beside him. His posture is relaxed, one arm draped over the armrest, his legs crossed casually, as if nothing out of the ordinary has unfolded here tonight. I expect to see judgment in his eyes, a flicker of disappointment or anger. But when our gazes meet, there's something else entirely. His eyes are soft, warm even, with a glint that almost looks like pride. My breath catches, a lump forming in my throat. How can he look at me like that after what just happened? How can he sit there so calm, so composed, when I'm a mess of raw nerves and unspoken questions? I watch, almost in slow motion, as Ethan rises from the chair. His movements are deliberate, unhurried, each step across the worn wooden floor echoing in the quiet. He crosses the room and lowers himself onto the couch beside me, the cushion dipping under his weight. The space between us feels charged, electric, even though he's close enough that I can feel the heat of him. Then, his hand finds my knee, resting there with a familiar steadiness, an anchor I've clung to so many times before. The simple touch grounds me, cutting through the fog in my mind, but it also deepens the weight of everything unsaid. I want to ask him why. Why did he bring them here? How can he be okay with this? How could he watch and not flinch? The words pile up in my throat, heavy and sharp, but I can't get them out. My mouth opens, then closes, the silence stretching taut between us. Instead of speaking, I lean into him, my shoulder pressing against his chest, seeking the comfort of his warmth. His arm shifts slightly, accommodating me, and for a moment, we just sit there, letting the quiet speak for us. The fire continues its restless crackle, casting golden light across the room, but my mind is far from calm. This isn't the end of the conversation. I can feel it in the air, a tension that hums like a storm on the horizon. There's more to uncover, more about his intentions, about what he saw in me tonight that I didn't even see in myself. And deeper still, there's the question of my own desires. I'm still leaning against Ethan, the warmth of his chest, a quiet comfort against the storm raging inside me when his voice finally breaks the silence. It's low, steady, a timbre that seems to vibrate through the very air between us. "Rachel," he says, and my name on his lips feels like a tether, pulling me back from the edge of my spiraling thoughts. I don't respond right away, just listen to the crackle of the fire and the distant howl of the wind through the pines outside, as if the world itself is holding its breath for what comes next. Then, without warning, he shifts, his arms coming around me in a hug that's both fierce and tender. His strength is reassuring, a solid wall against the chaos I've been drowning in. I'm caught off guard, my breath hitching as I feel the steady beat of his heart against my cheek. His embrace is like a dam breaking, all the tension I've been carrying melting into the warmth of him. And then, he leans in closer, his breath warm against my ear as he whispers, "I wanted you to remember who you are. I want us to do this again." His words hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over every doubt, every shred of guilt that's been gnawing at me since the moment Caleb's touch sparked something I thought was long dead. I freeze for a heartbeat, my mind reeling, trying to process the weight of what he's just said. Remember who I am? Do this again? It's not accusation or anger in his tone. It's a plea, a longing, layered with something so raw it makes my chest ache. The guilt I've been wrestling with, the shame that's been whispering in the back of my mind, it all washes away under the force of his honesty. I'm left trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of understanding what he means. I pull back just enough to look into his eyes, searching for something, anything, that might betray a hidden resentment or regret. But there's nothing like that. Instead, I see a depth of understanding that cuts straight through me. His gaze isn't clouded by betrayal. It's clear, piercing, filled with a desire I hadn't expected. It's a look that says he's seen me fading, watched the vibrant parts of me wither under the weight of routine and numbness, and he couldn't stand by any longer. He wants me alive again, even if it means shattering the boundaries we've always known, even if it means stepping into a space society might never understand. My breath catches as I realize the truth. He orchestrated this night, brought Caleb, Marcus, and Liam here, not to test me, but to reignite something between us, to pull me back from the edge of myself. My mind floods with memories of who I used to be. Vibrant, passionate, unapologetic. I remember the way I used to laugh without holding back, the way I'd chase after what I wanted with a fire that nothing could extinguish. I'd dance in the rain without caring who saw, speak my mind without fear of judgment, love with a ferocity that left no room for doubt. But somewhere along the way, I let that fire dim. I buried it under layers of monotony, under the weight of expectations, and endless days that bled into one another. I became a shadow of that woman, a hollow shell going through the motions. And Ethan saw it. He saw me slipping away, and instead of letting me disappear, he did something drastic, something unthinkable to most, to bring me back. This night, these strangers, the unspoken permissions, it was all for me, for us, to reconnect through a path I never would have dared to walk on my own. I'm shaking now, not from cold, but from the rawness of this realization. The firelight flickers across the cabin walls, casting dancing shadows that seem to mirror the turmoil inside me. The distant wind howls, a mournful sound that weaves through the pines, amplifying the weight of this moment. I can still feel the ghost of unfamiliar touches on my skin, the way they stirred something long dormant. But now, with Ethan's arms around me, it's his warmth, his presence that grounds me. The next morning, I wake up in the small bedroom of this old wooden house, the kind of place that creaks with history in every corner. Sunlight streams through a dusty window, painting golden streaks across the worn quilt draped over me. I blink against the brightness, my body aching in a way that's both heavy and strangely alive. A mix of exhaustion from the night before and a lingering thrill that hums beneath my skin. As I lie there, the events of last night replay in my mind like a vivid dream, each moment sharp and undeniable. The unfamiliar touches, the unspoken permissions, the way boundaries blurred into something raw and real, it all rushes back, leaving my heart racing all over again. I shift under the covers, wincing slightly at the tenderness in my muscles, but there's a lightness in my chest I haven't felt in months, maybe years. Swinging my legs over the side of the bed, I pull on a loose sweater and pad barefoot across the cool floor, drawn by the faint aroma of coffee drifting through the air. When I step into the kitchen, Ethan's already there, standing by the stove with a pot in hand, steam curling up from the brew. His back is to me, but there's a quiet ease in the way he moves, like he's been awake for hours, sorting through his own thoughts. I hesitate in the doorway for a moment, just watching him, before he turns and catches my gaze. Without a word, he reaches for a chipped ceramic mug, fills it with the dark, rich liquid, and hands it to me. Our fingers brush as I take it, a fleeting connection that sends a small spark through me, and we exchange a look. One that carries everything we haven't said yet, everything we don't need to say right now. I cradle the mug in my hands, letting the warmth seep into my palms, and settle at the small wooden table by the window. The house feels different this morning, quieter, as if the weight of last night's intensity has lifted, leaving behind only echoes. Caleb, Marcus, and Liam are gone, their presence now just a memory etched into the walls of this place. But even with them absent, I can still feel the undercurrent of what unfolded here, like the air itself holds onto the tension and release of those hours. I take a sip of the coffee, bitter and strong, and let my mind wander back to the woman I was before all this, before the burnout, before the numbness that wrapped around me like a second skin. That suffocating weight, the one that pinned me to my bed back home, feels less oppressive now. It's not gone, not entirely, but it's as if I've clawed back a piece of myself, a fragment of the fire I thought had long since burned out. Ethan joins me at the table, his own mug in hand, and for a while, we just sit in companionable silence. The only sounds are the occasional chirp of a bird outside and the faint creak of the house settling around us. I steal a glance at him, taking in the familiar lines of his face, the way his eyes seem to hold a quiet satisfaction this morning. I wonder what he's thinking, if he's replaying the same moments I am, if he's as changed by this as I feel. But I don't ask. Not yet. There's a comfort in this stillness, in knowing we've crossed a threshold together, even if I'm not sure where it leads. After a while, we step outside onto the porch, the crisp morning air biting at my cheeks as I pull my sweater tighter around me. The forest stretches endlessly before us, a sea of deep green pines swaying gently in the breeze, their scent sharp and grounding. I lean against the weathered railing, letting the vastness of it all sink in, feeling the possibility that lingers in every rustle of the leaves. Ethan stands beside me, close enough that I can sense his warmth, and I let myself breathe deeply, really breathe, for the first time in what feels like forever. The world out here is so different from the one I left behind. The endless emails, the forced smiles, the gray monotony of suburban routine. Out here, I feel awake, if not entirely whole. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.